Welcome to the Everything Yachting YouTube channel. Our goal is to help yacht buyers, yacht owners, and yacht sellers through interesting, educational, and informative discussions on topics that are anything and everything yachting related. Hello, Eric Gervais with Marler Marine. My associate Rod Silva. We're here to talk about everything that we can think of that is yachting related. We want to bring people on our channel here, our YouTube channel, that will provide information to you that's going to help you in your boat buying search or boat buying process. Today, I'm pleased to have Julio and Jackson from Azure Funding. We've done some deals with them in the past. They've treated our clients well, and we wanted to give them the floor to do a little back and forth today to help educate you again, so that maybe we can make your boat buying process a little bit simpler or easier for you. So I'm not sure who wants to go first, but let me start with, how'd you guys get into the industry?
Okay. Yeah. So I've been in the industry about 3 or 4 years. In a past life, I was doing SBA lending. Did that a little bit, learned a lot about, banking and cash flows and stuff like that. And then I ended up at a credit union that did marine lending. Spent about 3.5 years there. I really enjoyed it. Loved it. It's great, tight-knit community. Love all the people in there. And I had an opportunity to come work for Azure Funding on the brokerage side, which gave me a little bit more flexibility and gave me a little bit closer access to the customers and build those relationships, which I enjoy. So I've been over here about 4 or 5 months, and it's been a great experience. Couldn't be happier for the move.
Okay. All right. And how about yourself?
Well, I'm a Florida resident, grew up down here, went to college down here, a graduate of Florida Atlantic University, but spent a lot of time above and below the water, down in the waters of South Florida. Been in the lending world pretty much my entire career. I have been in the marine lending world for the last 30 years. So definitely a lot of time and a lot of experience behind the team, and very happy to bring our knowledge and expertise to the market here.
Okay. All right. Well, in my prior life, I was in finance, so I understand ebbs and flows of markets. I understand that at one time rates were 18%, and at one time they were 0%. We're in the middle of that right now. What would you say as a current market, in some bullet point words, where are we in that cycle? Is it easy? Is it difficult? What would you guys say? What could be my expectation as somebody who's never bought a boat before? I'm about to sell a business. I've got this liquidity event coming and I want to go yachting. I've narrowed it down to a couple different brands, high quality brands, luxury brands like what we're on right now in the 66 Morlo. What can I expect?
Well, certainly the credit markets have tightened up a little bit just as a result of economic conditions. We have seen interest rates obviously go up. We anticipate there'll probably be at least one more increase this year. And then the expectations are that the rates will kind of stay and remain steady for the remainder of the year. If you're a first-time buyer, or let's say you have a planned purchase within the next 12 months, it's really a good idea to go ahead and look at a pre-approval process. We can kind of outline and give you a gauge as far as amount, size, what you might be looking for. You could look at maybe a bigger boat, smaller loan, bigger loan. You never know.
And the timing of that, what do you think? So I know I've got a buyer for my business. I'm in negotiations. I think I'm going to close 12 months from today. As a yacht broker, I will tell all of you that are selling businesses, it probably is going to be more difficult and takes a little bit longer than what you think, because I've been helping those of you go through that process to get that boat to go cruising. So I know we talk about a target date of January next year, and it might turn into January the year after. So in that general mindset, how far out do you want to be talking to the future boat buyer that's expecting a liquidity event?
6 to 12 months is typically a good time frame to begin the process of having discussions for the loan. If there's a liquidity event that's scheduled within that time frame, or within even 24 months, as long as you've got it ironed out and there's a plan in place, we can actually look at structuring the loan around that. We can be very flexible and have programs tailored to that kind of situation, in that if something's going to happen in a business sale, for example, is going to happen in 12 months or 24 months, we can structure a payment program for that time frame and then beyond. So we can step up, step down. You can get very creative with the structure and how we've set it up for them.
Mm-hmm. So, Rod, if you had a client that wanted to go down island Bahamas cruising, maybe even go around the world, right? Or go to Alaska, or go to Icebergs, wherever, right? I think Captain Tad last week wants us to go to the Tortugas, right? So wherever, right? Wherever you wanted to go. And I'm coming to you saying, I'm selling my business in 12 months. You put me in touch with these guys. Is there any reason I should buy that boat before I sell my business and have all that free time?
Absolutely. Right. One is if you want to have the experience of owning, a certain boat before you end up building or buying your dream boat, you want to have something that you can step into. One question that I would, pose to you guys is, let's say somebody is ready to take that step. What should they do in preparation for making that purchase? Let's say they've already been in touch with you for a few months and now they're ready to take that step. What should they do before they come and apply with you?
Well, the best thing to have ready and in place is have the terms, conditions, and outline for the financial plan that's going to come down the line. If all that is set, then we have the ability to structure a loan around that. So as long as the terms have been ironed out and whatnot, so that the bank has an idea of how the financial picture is going to come into play as we move into it and beyond the liquidity event, then a loan structure can be created to accommodate.
So we're sitting on a $3.5 million Marlowe today. She's a 2020, 66 named Magic. What would a traditional boat buyer expect in duration of loans that would be available for us?
Standard on something like this would be a 20-year term. That's kind of the norm. We've got terms that extend out to 30 with some lenders, and we have people that obviously can do varying terms in between. It's really up to the borrower how they want to structure it. We have some flexibility there in creating that. Typical down payment, is about 20%, give or take about a 5%, depending on the varying lenders' requirements.
So I like to keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
So what's the low, what's the high on your down payment schedules?
15% is the low. I don't know about the high. It kind of varies. Some clients like to put, in this kind of class, clients will put sometimes 40, 50% down.
What's in it for me if I put 40 or 50% down as a buyer?
They'll get a little bit more advantageous term on rate, and you'll get a little bit of a break as far as that goes.
Right. Okay. So if I want to put more money down to get a lower rate, I can with you guys.
Absolutely.
Are there anything I need to worry about on prepayment? What if the interest rates go down 3 points in 3 years and I want to refinance with you or pay it off or whatever? How would that work?
A lot of lenders in this size class will have a prepayment penalty limited to the first 12 months. Okay. And so after the first 12 months, the boat can be refinanced, restructured, just give us a call if the interest rates go down. Typically about 1.5% to 2% is about the point where it goes down enough to where refinancing it makes a little bit of sense.
Gotcha. And where I was going with my question to Rod was, if you want to do this, okay, it is better to get the boat earlier. And the reason is you need to learn it yourself. You need to make sure that you're going to be an approved operator and a captain. You need to make sure your crew or mates are up to speed. You need to talk about all the things that need to go on that boat, from provisioning to mechanical supplies, before you actually take that trip, because we want you to have a successful trip. So when we're talking about a future liquidity event and getting into the financing world, you might need to start this earlier than you think so that you're ready to go when you actually have the time, right? Some people don't want to start this until they have the time, but the problem is it really does take some time to get going with these types of things. I can think of a client that didn't have the money to build his new Marlowe when he ordered it, but he knew he was doing a legacy plan with his children with the business, and he knew that money would come during the build process. It doesn't matter where the money's coming from. If you're doing it yourself, if you're doing it from a liquidity event, your business, or you're borrowing it from them, plan ahead so that you're actually ready when you have the time. Because unfortunately, life can be shorter than we all think. And if this is a dream you want to do, you gotta really Work with people that know how to get you there. And that's one thing that Rod and I are trying to do, again, is bring people that can help you navigate through this challenging process of buying a boat and cruising down island.
Julio, you mentioned you've been doing this for about 30 years, right? Jackson, roughly 4 or 5. What would you say sets you guys apart from, because you're not the only lending company out there, correct? So why should people focus on working with you? What has your experience taught you?
Well, the biggest thing that we do is the personalized experience. This is true of a lot of luxury type products. You've got to be there. You've got to be willing to sit down with the client, help them out, help them through the paperwork. We'll guide you through the process. We'll help put everything in order. One of the best things that we do is help you complete and do the paperwork to make it as nice as we can make it look for the banks. All the banks are going to see of the client typically is the paperwork that's set in front. And so we try to give them that personal experience, help them work through the documents to make the process smooth and painless and as pleasant as possible.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to dive deep on live aboard. Okay. And the reason why I want to do that is I've run into issues in the past where I had a client, they wanted to buy $1 million or $2 million boat. They had $1 million or $2 million house. They wanted to sell the $1 million or $2 million house. They wanted to buy the boat. They wanted to go cruising. The boat was going to be their home. And we really struggled with getting banks to be able to do that. They generally had a cap of about $250,000. One of the things that stood out to me the first time we met was, I believe you told me you had maybe up to a $4 million live aboard option for somebody who wants to buy a boat. I think we should dive deep in that because I haven't heard of somebody that's had that before. And maybe that's just a connection you have, but let's educate. How do we go about that? What can you do for us there?
We have a lender that came on board a little while back, and they offer live aboard financing up to the $4 million level mark. Typical terms and conditions, nothing really varies all that much from your standard procedure or anything, on the transactional side of things. Just simply an extra feature. There's a little bit of a price premium for it on the interest rate, but otherwise it's exactly the same process.
Okay. Any type of different parameters they would need or income levels or assets? It's all just generally the same?
The qualification and everything else is identical to a standard boat loan.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's easy. I thought it was going to be difficult and challenging. I was looking for the hurdles I was going to have to jump over.
No extra hurdles. No. That's
wow.
good.
Another question I often get, speaking of differences, is some people think they can qualify for a brokerage loan, but they're looking at one of the Marlows and they're considering either buying something in the brokerage market or building new. You have done both, correct?
Yes.
And again, educating. Any major differences between the brokerage side and the new build side? Obviously, everything is going to be on a case by case, but you guys can do that as well, correct?
Well, the parameters for qualifying for anything new to up to 10 years old is typically the same.
Okay.
So if you're going to qualify for a brand new one, you're going to qualify for a 5-year-old one. It's not going to make any real difference or any significant alteration there. Once you pass the 10-year mark, they start looking at things a little bit more in depth, maybe a little bit, more of a add-on for maintenance and those type of issues, the way they look at a little older boat. But otherwise, the parameters that remain consistent all the way through about a 20-year-old vessel.
Okay. And what's the oldest, what's the biggest, what's the smallest, that you guys deal with?
The oldest lenders typically have a hardline cutoff at a 30-year-old boat. That's typically for across the board universally in the industry. As far as the smallest, we've considered boats all the way down to about $40,000, and we've done transactions all the way to $25 million. So it's a wide range, and we can consider higher. It's not necessarily that there's a limitation. It's just how many lenders would participate in the transaction. Lenders are really the concern right now with the credit markets the way they are. Something that's going to be north of $25 million is probably going to involve more than one bank being with a participation type transaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say our wheelhouse is the $1 million to $15 million. That's most of where the Marlows fall in. We got some bigger ones coming out that are going to be, larger and more expensive, of course. And we started delivering these, in the early 2000s. So, we're just now approaching that 20-year mark. A high quality boat like a Marlowe Explorer, let's just pretend it's 23 years old. What's the actual extra versus a 19-year-old Marlowe? Is that something that a buyer, let's just pretend one's $1.3 million and one's $1.1 million, but now we're talking about the finance man. What's that extra cost? What's the real delta there? Do I take the cheaper one, right, because I saved the money up front, or does it make it so expensive on the finance that I shouldn't do that and I should buy the newer one?
It's not going to create a situation where it's prohibitively expensive. You're going to see probably anywhere from a quarter point to 3/4 of a point differential on the rate. You may see a shortening of the term a little bit from maybe 20 years to 15 years or something along those lines. But it's not going to be a significant enough delta to where it's going to make that much of a difference on the qualifier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great news. Yeah. That's great news. What are some things that if you could roll it out and tell everybody right now, these are the 3 things you need to know in advance before you even come, on this application process, what would that be? What are the you hit the easy button. If they knew this, it'd make your life easier. What is that?
One of the biggest pitfalls we see, even within the industry, is the client that takes an application and partially completes or maybe leaves things out. Maybe there's some extra money here or there that was coming into the picture and they left it off the personal financial statement or something along those lines. The best advice I can give is be absolutely thorough and complete when completing the application and the financial statement. Financial statement is probably one of the most important forms you fill out on a vessel like this. I couldn't stress that enough. In that, when the bank looks at this and looks at a transaction, they go to the personal financial statement first to see what we're looking at as far as the overall financial profile of an individual. So I stress strongly that be very complete, be very thorough on that form, and disclose as much as you can, and give the bank as best of a picture of yourself as you possibly can. And that's the best advice that I can give.
So I got a client. He calls me tomorrow. He's in the wheelhouse for this $3.5 million boat. I don't tell him all the stuff that you just said right there because that's your business, not mine. I put him in touch. Maybe I have a conference call with you.
Yep.
And I say, I ask just the general questions. What are the rates? What are the terms? This is it, right? And then I hand them off. Do you have any coaching in that process? Because I imagine it's difficult. You just met the guy. You want to take his financial statement as the truth. But do you do any questioning, before I give this to the bank, is there anything else, and you hit these 5 things, right? Do you have X, Y, Z, A, B, and C that maybe you haven't thought of before that's presented? Because I would imagine once it's presented, edits or, modifications to it probably aren't as easy than, up front and making it right in the first impression type of a thing. So what do you guys do there?
Well, the initial conversation involves, more or less a fact finding of who's the client, what's the financial profile overall from a bird's eye level, what are they looking to accomplish, what are they going to be using the boat for, is it going to be seasonal, is it going to be up north part of the year, down here part of the year in South Florida, what are the plans? And once we get the basic financial profile and start beginning to gather their documents, we'll follow up with them and have a discussion a little bit deeper into the financial picture that we have. And that's usually where we start generating the questions that start diving a little deeper. But certainly, within that realm, there'll be coaching and discussion about what the needs are, what kind of structure are we going to be looking for, what's the intended use of the boat, are they going to be chartering, are they not, or is it live aboard? Is it something that they're going to use seasonally, recreationally? Where is it going to be housed? So that we know the lender to place it with, and we know what the financial picture is overall, so that we can tailor the package to meet their need.
Mm-hmm. So does the location or those variables matter with different banks? As an example, I buy this boat here in Florida. I'm insured for hurricane season. I have a captain. And then 3 months from now, I decide I want to take it to the Med, right? I know I need insurance for that, but does that affect my loan at all?
It can. There are lenders that, as with everything, there's no one-stop shop. So there are lenders that are more geared and suited to the client that's going to be taking the boat internationally or whatnot, or perhaps a lender that will permit charter or won't permit charter. So there's different things that are going to be permitted within the loan document structure. And so we want to make sure that whatever the client is going to do and how they're going to use the boat matches with what the lender is going to allow and permit so that they don't run into any kind of problems.
Question, you brought up chartering, which made me think about a question that comes up when I talk to somebody about financing is, I own 3 boats in an LLC. Can I use that LLC to apply for the loan, or does it have to be a personal loan? Do you guys do both, or is it just personal?
Most of these are structured as personal loans.
Okay.
However, the lenders do allow for LLC ownership or trust ownership in different capacities.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Okay. If I was to oversimplify our client base, I would say we have mostly people that, from what I see anyway, pay cash. Right? I don't mean green cash. I just mean that I'm not talking to a finance company or a bank during the closing process. I don't know what happens afterwards. Maybe they have their boat loan lined up right afterwards. But what would you say to a guy who traditionally buys his toys with cash as a reason why consider talking to you just to see what options are out there?
The motivational factors for borrowing are across the board, but right now in a tightening credit market, I anticipate that there's going to be a little bit more demand for liquidity to be held, whether they're business owners or whether whatever concerns of changing economic conditions come about. I suspect that people are going to be a little more focused on holding on to their liquidity. So I suspect that there's going to be a little bit more demand for borrowing. And one of the nice aspects of coming to a company like us is that it separates that relationship, that toy or that personal boat from their business relationship with their business bank. So obviously lenders are always concerned about concentrated risk exposure and things like that. So it's a good thing to pull that away from the bank that has your business relationship so as not to impede your borrowing or lines of credit or anything that you may have at any one particular bank that you work with.
Okay, understood. So if I already own this boat, I could take a loan out on it, free up some cash, terms that were agreeable to me, and then do whatever I want with that.
That's correct.
Right. Right.
And typically, the way it works is if you want to do it within 6 months of the purchase, you'd get the same terms as a regular purchase when you're ready to buy it. Probably a 20% down payment, same terms. A little bit after 6 months, you're probably looking at 70% LTV. So you have a little bit more equity in the boat, but you're still able to pull out that cash and use it for business purposes, personal purposes, whatever you would like.
And what's the difference? Why would a bank want to have 10% more if I've owned it for 7 months versus 5 months?
I think that's just because the vessel's a little bit older, and the transactions happen a little bit longer, and they just look at it as a little bit safer side on that since purchase happened about a year ago. That we've already know the guy's got the money because he paid for it cash. We'll just call it a 30% down payment and go out at 70% LTV.
Interest rates different?
Interest rates would be about the same. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention back on the LLCs. Lenders will typically require it to be a single-purpose LLC.
Okay.
So it can't necessarily be in a business that you already own. So the LLC would need to be solely for the ownership and operation of the boat. And that's just as far that the only reason for that is liability concerns.
Okay.
They don't want, if the business gets sued, they don't want to have the boat get tied up into that.
Right. Now, how do you guys meet most of your prospective clients? Where do you meet them? Meet them at boat shows? Do you have a network existing already? Brokers? What's your funnel? How do people get to you?
We work Basically 3 ways. We sometimes we get them directly. Sometimes we'll get them through internet and broker leads, and boat shows and regional trade shows.
If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, phone, email, or we'll put this up on the on the video. But what's the best way to reach you?
You can reach our offices in Fort Lauderdale at 954-621-5100. Email is julio@azurefunding.com. And Jackson is...
You can reach me on my cell phone at 405-435-8557 or jackson@azurefunding.com.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Any advice, for somebody who may have, taken a boat loan out, 2 years ago, 5 years ago? I know interest rates are up. Is there any reason for anybody to convert, or is it pretty much, a rate competition environment? They want to stay with what they have?
Well, unless you're flipping the boat, I think right now you're probably in a better rate position than the market is right now. We'll see how things turn around in the coming months. We anticipate that rates will start coming down at some point. But if you're sitting on one of those 399s or 499s from a couple of years ago, I think you're doing pretty well.
Right.
And you don't want to switch that out.
Right. Right. And what about people? Because a lot of people have bought boats. A lot of people bought boats in COVID. Some people bought the wrong boat. And what have you seen in that market? Boats holding value for loans. You have seen people having to write big checks. What have you seen just as a resale statistic? For maybe some of the loans you've done that have now sold, and maybe they bought something different. Maybe they got out of boating. What's been your snapshot for the past 3 to 5 years?
Well, in the past 3 years, nobody's gotten hurt on boats. They've been able to basically resell them or flip into another boat if they did buy the wrong boat fairly inexpensively and without too much pain. We don't know if that's going to hold true as things go forward, but right now most of the prices are holding. They're coming down just a little bit, but I don't think just a little bit of softening is indicative of a hard trend just yet. We'll see how things go forward. But right now, people have been okay. We haven't seen anybody having to write painful checks or anything like that just yet.
Well, let's hope that doesn't come.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope that doesn't come for sure. So, Rod, we talked about future guests on this, maybe some engine, manufacturers.
Engines would be great. Like we said, we like to bring the professionals, these gentlemen here today, and we would like to invite any engine manufacturers that we have worked with, maybe some that we haven't worked with. Marlows are built semi-custom. You get to choose your engine package as a part of some of that customization. So we would like to invite any engine manufacturers that would like to come and join us and speak and help educate our viewers.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have a few different experts from the insurance and finance industry. So you'll be able to hear a well-rounded opinion so that everybody can get their message across. So, I think we've kind of covered a lot of ground here today. If you had, a 3 minutes, what's your competitive advantage? Why would they want to call you first? What is that?
Competitive rates and personalized touch.
Okay.
And we've got lots of experience here. Julio's been doing it 30 years. CEO's been doing it about 30 years. Lots of stuff. Tailored experience. Customer service is the number one thing. If you call us, we're going to pick up the phone. We're going to communicate with you. We're going to let you know what's going on with the application process, where, on the side where if you're buying a boat, you want to know what's going on. This is a big transaction. You want to feel like you're being taken care of. And so that's what we try to provide, the white glove service to you, to let you know what's going on, and so that you feel like everything's going along smoothly. And if there are any issues, we know ways around it to kind of help you out and get a deal done where other people cannot.
I'll second that. I would say the reason why they're here is they've offered some things that we hadn't seen in the market before, and they were able to come up with some creative solutions in a time where we needed to have some creativity to get a deal closed. So I thank you for that. I'm really big on answering your phone. I don't know when my client's going to have that. I like this boat. but how do I get it financed question? And I am going to hit the call button and put you on speakerphone at that time. That is your opportunity with me, because I want to get that client or customer the information as quickly as possible within the best resources I know. So if I call, it's probably going to be because I got a client with me with one of these that's looking for an answer now. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming here today.
Thank you.
Rod, did you have anything else?
No, just thank you for your time. You guys have all, like Eric said, you'll second that. I'll third that. Every single time I've called one of you guys, you've always either picked up the phone or called me right back. And that's what we're looking for.
Thank you guys.
We
Thanks for having
appreciate
us
it
on.
very much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you,
Thank you so
gentlemen.
much.
Thank you guys.
I hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Thanks for joining us at Everything Yachting. I hope you've enjoyed diving into the yachting world today. If you've enjoyed or learned something, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more. Until next time, my friends, healthy families, happy memories, and may fair winds and smooth seas guide your future yachting adventures.